Welcome back. This is part two. Part two. So if you missed part one, definitely go back and watch it because it has some important context for us. This is part two in how to transmute unproductive conflict with aroma point therapy. Actually, I hadn't named it yet, so it just got itself named. Wonderful. Let's start. Interesting. I just was asking the oils, which one wants to go first? And it's Clary Sage. Clary Sage was like, I do, me. Clary Sage, the wisdom keeper. I also refer to Clary Sage as Beyond Polarity. By the way, if you're wondering, what are you talking about? What are these nicknames? I'm taking this straight from, I have my screen up here right now, from the beautiful Healing Oil Collective, which is like a living library, really, as well as a journey with 36 different essential oils. And you can check that out through, if you were to type into a search engine, Master Healer Academy, Tiffany Carroll, you'll come right to it. So part of this work that I'm sharing with you are little snippets, pieces out of the Healing Oil Collective. And if you like this way of learning about the oils, of thinking about the oils, of being with the oils, then definitely check out Healing Oil Collective. It's so fortifying. And what I love, one of the things that I love most about it is that it's not just about more information about the oils. It really is a journey of guiding you into a deeper personal, soulful relationship with the oils so that, you're speaking to it, it's speaking to you. They become our actual living, how about this? Our actual guides and allies in this lived life of ours right now. Clary Sage. One of the first times that I meditated with Clary Sage, I saw a visual of the Sri Yantra. Do you know what the Sri Yantra is? It's a sacred geometry shape that is two interpenetrating triangles. So if you have this one and then imagine the reverse of that entering into it, like so, overlaid on each other. And the Sri Yantra is actually a really rich symbol that I'm sort of grossly oversimplifying right now. But in a nutshell, it is the interpenetration of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It's also a symbol of the interpenetration of opposites, of polarities. And one of the most rich backdrops of the human experience is that we exist within a world of duality and polarity. We are part and parcel of a unity, the big unity with a capital U, and we come in and individuate. I'm Tiffany, you're you. We individuate and we have our own individual experiences, while the deepest, truest, always has been, always will be part of ourself is never separate from the whole. And in this earth plane, some people call it the 3D plane, the backdrop of our experience is one of polarity or duality. We have night and day, we have black and white, we have rich and poor, we have hungry, we have full, all of these dynamics of opposites. Clary Sage's deepest medicine for us is that it ministers to all the parts of our being, whether physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, soulful, where we have been practicing, by the way, often without even knowing it, distortions in polarity because of human conditioning, because of the nature of human conditioning. So what might a distortion in polarity be? Well, one of the ones that has been so in our face, I was going to put a time frame on it, but it really has been for not just the last couple of years, but certainly there's been a bubbling to the surface in the last couple of years of the wound of racism and the reality of racism. So right there is a very painful distortion in a duality. One color is better than the other color. One color receives more than the other color. One color is oppressed while another color is exalted, right? So that's just one example. We could look at these distortions and polarity across the board, in every arena, in the professional sphere, in the personal sphere, in the realm of sex, in the realm of power, in the realm of money, right? The list goes on. So any place where we've been practicing acting out of a distortion and polarity, Clary Sage will minister. And it ministers by providing a vibration to these places and spaces in our being and reminding us that there's another way to be. And I want to say, I think the conscious mind, because we all have a persona. Look, we all have a persona that wants to say, I don't do that, and I don't discriminate, or I don't, there's all these things that we say, I don't. And the truth is, we do it all the time in all kinds of ways. What I mean is the distortion and polarity. All the time, think about how you do it with yourself. When you get hard on yourself about how productive you're being or not being, when you judge yourself harshly for whatever, waking up late or not doing something as good as someone else or not answering the emails in the time frame that you thought. This is beyond the conversation of discipline and goals and all of that. I'm just simply talking about beating yourself up for what you are or are not, or doing the opposite, amplifying yourself, making yourself so great in your mind because you've done this and other people don't do it. By the way, there's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself. I'm all for that. But within this sphere of pinging back and forth against the opposites of distortion. So I am so awful, I am so fantastic. Within that is a maladaptive cycle that is not actually supportive to genuine, emergent, true, natural growth. In genuine, true, natural, emergent growth, we might totally epically celebrate ourselves. I kicked ass, that was awesome, that was great. But we don't have to hold on to that as an identity either. We move on to the next thing. Or we might experience the, dang, that did not come out the way I wanted. I really want to do better next time when I have conversations like this with someone. Note to self, this is what I'm going to practice, this is what I'm committed to, and move on, right? You can feel the difference between those two. So one is a natural movement between what we could call, what shall we call it? It's like the manifestation and demanifestation of our experience. The coming into being and the recognizing of coming into being and the going out of being, right? So this movement between the coming into being and going out of being is actually, in Chinese medicine, it's the movement between wood and metal elements. It's also the movement between the fall and the spring. There's a natural opening of perspective and a natural acknowledgement and release, and a natural opening of perspective and growth and a natural acknowledgement and release, like this, between the fall and the spring. What does that have to do with Clary Sage? When we get stuck in these loops of unproductive polarization in attempts to motivate ourselves or another, in attempts to get our way, in attempts to manipulate, in attempts to dominate over. These are all things that we all do or have done in our life. We practice patterns that are maladaptive in nature. By maladaptive, I mean they're not serving ultimately to create deeper integrity in our being. They do serve a purpose, by the way, in the bigger scheme of things, because when we practice our maladaptive patterns and we get really uncomfortable and we suffer because of them, we have an opportunity to change, accessing more of our conscious choice. And this is how we consciously co-create ourselves with Source, with God, with the universe. This is how we consciously co-create a different future together. When we find ourselves in these oscillations and these pingings back and forth with this maladaptive polarization, we can call on Clary Sage, we can work with Clary Sage and rectify, resurrect, ignite, activate the memory within our being of a natural flowing movement between opposites. We were meant to flow between opposites. We were meant to flow between day and night, black and white, rich, poor, in various ways that it can show up. Calm, excited, all of these. We were meant to oscillate between these opposites. But Clary Sage helps us to remember how to do it within our power. What that means is, another way of saying this is, within polarity distortion, we end up either entering into a domination or a submission within ourselves or outside of ourselves. It's usually both, by the way, because they mirror each other. And we do that only because, for whatever reason, in that moment or with that particular thing, we don't know how to do it another way. Clary Sage enters, and it's like it whispers into our ear, to our heart, to our being. Here's the other way, right here. It's like this. It's like this. And it's the most wise, epically wise balance between push and pull, between receiving and giving, between birthing and dying. All of these most fundamental polarities that make up the foundation of our experience. Clary Sage can bring us into tune, into resonance with those primal, beautiful, deeply wise movements within ourselves. So what does this mean practically? Let's talk about that, and then I'm going to give you a really beautiful acupoint for Clary Sage. Practically what this means is that when you find yourself in struggle of domination and submission within yourself, or feeling the pain of witnessing domination and submission outside of yourself, you can take in this oil, this fragrance, and shift your experience like that so that you have a different experience. And when you have a different experience, everything changes. That's a reality change. So now, what is this? I just want to be really clear and grounded with you. I'm not saying that smelling an oil is going to completely recreate your reality without any measure of your choice to do things differently. There is, one of the most beautiful things about the oils worked with in this way is that they bring us squarely to a choice point within our experience, right face to face with a choice point, and the space and the increased awareness to choose differently. So say, for example, you're in this cycle of domination and submission within yourself, beating yourself up, getting overwhelmed, then pushing yourself to the brink, and then getting overwhelmed, and then beating yourself up, right? This cycle. You stop, you smell Clary Sage, you put it on this point that I'm about to share with you, and all of the sudden that tension pattern just melts out of your physical body. You're not holding yourself rigid like that. You're not clenching your jaw, and you're not clenching your hips. You feel a softness come in your third eye and in your mind. You drop deeper into your body, into the depths of your being. And that space for grace opens, and you deepen in awareness so that when you open your eyes, when you come to, you have more of a measure for freedom to choose something differently. And what is it that you're going to be choosing? To choose to put your attention on something other than what you have been. Oftentimes when we're in unproductive conflict within ourselves, no matter which side we go to, it feels horrifically uncomfortable. Like choosing between slave driving yourself or being overwhelmed and collapsed on the couch binge watching shows and overeating, like neither of those sound good, right? When the space for grace opens and we have a different opportunity to choose something different, it's because all of a sudden the space is there and we can put our attention on something else. Gratitude, appreciation, a celebration of who we are for just existing, acknowledgement of how far we've come in our process, even if we don't like where we are right there, right then, even if it's not where we plan to be, just like seeing, dang, look at me. Look at how far I've come to compared to where I was. It's nothing short of miraculous. Clary Sage opens that portal, it opens that window, and it guides us into that sweet union. So where can we put Clary Sage? Certainly I would say, especially if you're more experienced with doing Aroma Point, put it wherever it's calling to you to be put. Absolutely. Trust your impulses and your instincts here. I do want to name a powerful acupoint called Gate of Origin. And I like this one because I think of it as like Clary Sage entering right into the center of that infinity loop, right into that middle quantum point where it can modulate a movement in whatever direction is needed for greater balance and that interpenetration of opposites, of divine opposites. And this point, Gate of Origin, is 2 inches above your pubic bone on the front side of your body. So if you feel for your pubic bone right now, and you just slide your finger up approximately 2 inches, don't worry about, did I get it exactly right? You know, if you find your pubic bone and you very lightly slide your finger up approximately 2 inches, your finger's going to kind of stick or like get pulled into that point right there. Try it right now. Yeah, good. That is Gate of Origin. That is CV4 or Conception Vessel 4. You take a drop of Clary Sage. Ideally, you would dilute it to 50% or 25% strength, which you can even just put a little carrier oil in the palm of your hands, a drop of the undiluted oil, and a little mix there. I use my oils already diluted. I get them pre-diluted through monara.org, www.monara.org. I'm the director of education for Monara and married to the owner of Monara. That's my full disclosure. But one of the things that we wanted to do was actually pre-dilute the oil so it doesn't have to be an issue for anyone. You can go right to it. It's pure organic jojoba and you just don't have to worry. Because one of the things that I was hearing from people is like, they would tell me I'm not doing the protocol, or I'm not doing the thing because I didn't have a diluted oil and I didn't have carrier oil with me and it just felt too complex. So make it easy on yourself if you want and get yourself a pre-diluted oil or dilute it yourself. Take a drop on either finger here, place it over CV4, and it's just a very light touch and you hold for 1 to 3 minutes, as long as you feel called to hold. And just close your eyes and breathe and come present and feel the lusciousness, like feel the generousness, the unfathomable generousness of this present moment. Yeah, like that. After you hold the oil on the point, bring it up for a deep inhalation and repeat as needed. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. Gosh, I certainly have. What a sweet journey. I feel like, yeah, it's so sweet to come together with you and to come together with the oils and be like a voice for them in this time. That's really what it feels like my place of service. And the more that I give myself over to that, the more deeply of service I am to my growth, to my evolution, like the sweet growth, the sweet evolution, when I'm really, just tender and present with myself for all parts of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So much love from my heart to yours. And I'll see you in the next video, part 2, okay? Do share this, by the way, if you know of anyone that would benefit from it.